Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Angel. And Martin Guitar, if you want to take a look, I know the 10 o'clock slot was full. The 11 o'clock, the last I heard, may have had one or two slots open. And I would suggest if anybody wants to go at this point, go to Martin Guitar's website itself and register for the 11 o'clock on the 25th. You'll see if there's any openings at that point. And since Sylvia was away for the weekend, I don't think she's here today. I don't see her on, so she would have the most current information. We have our competition topic for June set up. Yeah, emotion, capturing emotion. But I do want to make everybody aware that there have been some changes to the rules and how we want to do this. So please read the newsletter to make sure you fully understand how the competitions will work. And there's going to be some forthcoming, I believe, more detail for AI in terms of how the judging will take care of that. I think we're going to address that one more time at our board meeting in May. We got a couple other things. Montgomery County, the information will be fully forthcoming. We're going to be doing a show at Montgomery County Community College starting in late August, running through late October. And we're looking for people who may want to submit pictures. Watch the future newsletters for more information. Vince is in need of fundraising pictures. Again, go through the newsletter for more information, but that's our Penn State St. Joe's fundraiser. Over the years, we've raised a large amount of money, but they needed new pictures. They didn't want the old ones, so please read the newsletter and submit. Coming up in June, I guess we've got, let's see, Dutch is doing a presentation. And also in 2 weeks, we have Mike Moats with the properly equipped macro photographer presentation on Monday. And I think that's everything I wanted to highlight. Does anybody want to add anything? Anybody else before we turn it over to Jay?
I just joined, but did you already talk about Dan Berg on the 20th? If
Just
anybody's
real quick. Yeah, but it's in the newsletter, but please, do you know, Amy, if there's any openings left?
You know what? I have not gotten a chance to look. I do know that I did see some people sign up. I'm just not sure how many.
Okay. So we do have some interest there. That's good. But anybody interested to see Dan Berg's operation, this is a great chance to do it.
So
Thank you, Amy.
thanks for bringing up the need for images. We've gotten an incredible 290 image files, 30 by 40 size or cropped, all TIFF files. They look spectacular. In the next week, I'll give folks another this week, and then I'll be sending the gallery link to the designer. So if you're wanting to submit images for that gallery, please get to me ASAP. Info is in the newsletter. Thanks.
Okay. And just real quick, since Vince is standing there, Vince has had 2 pictures selected for juried competition. Pat has also been awarded for pictures, and the information's in the newsletter, and Jackie Burke has a picture that's also been selected for showing. So that's it, Jay, unless anybody else. Bob, you want to have your 2 cents? Okay, he's got 10 cents and he's throwing it away. Okay, Jay, it's all yours.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for coming out tonight. I'm pleased to introduce Cathy Kuhlman. Cathy Kuhlman is a self-taught photographer who began her serious study of photography later in life. She honed her skills through many online and in-person courses, as well as through many years of practice. She is a Click Pro Elite photographer and a Lens Baby trailblazer. Cathy enjoys sharing her love of Blur and her work through in-person classes and online presentations. Cathy also writes informational blogs for LensBaby. When Cathy doesn't have a camera in her hands, she enjoys traveling with her husband, spending time with her children, and her newest loves, her grandchildren, as well as taking long walks, gardening, and reading. Before retiring, Cathy worked in special education in her local school system. So everybody, welcome Cathy Kuhlman. Cathy, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here and I appreciate the invite. So let me get started with my screen sharing here and let's pray this works like I want it to. How are we doing? Are we good on your end?
Looks good.
Okay, great. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about creative possibilities with LensBaby. It is my understanding that LensBaby had contacted every camera club in the United States. And I'm assuming that that's how you found out about me. I believe that's where our connection had started. So, and this was the title that they gave me. So we're going to talk about what we can do with LensBaby. And my favorite thing about LensBaby is the blur. So just a couple of things that are not in my bio. I picked up my first LensBaby maybe about 10 years ago. And it was an original composer with a double glass optic in it. It was at a time when I was online, but did not really have a support group to kind of help me navigate what it was I was seeing or supposed to be seeing. And that combination ended up, you know, in a drawer, never to be seen again until about a year ago, to be honest with you. But a few years later, like in 2017, I took a macro class where the instructor used a Velvet 56. I didn't have enough money for that Velvet 56 at the time, but because of the images that I saw, I quickly found a way to save money and buy it. A few years later in 2021, when LensBaby, a little after they had started their ambassador program, I got really interested because a few of my friends had been approached by LensBaby. And I approached LensBaby myself and said, hey, what do I have to do? And, you know, I did a little bit of stuff and got an email back and said, congratulations, you're an ambassador. So in January of this year, LensBaby did away with their ambassador program and went back to a program that they had prior to starting the ambassador program called Trailblazers. So there's a much smaller group of us now. There's maybe 25, you know, doing the online things and doing presentations for LensBaby. So I was happy to be one of the ones who got asked to stay. So just a little bit about what I'm going to go over with you tonight. We're going to talk about the why of LensBaby. Really quickly, I want to go over the types of lenses and the products. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I'd really rather show you what they can do. If you have questions about the types of products, when I'm done screen sharing, I do have a couple of them here. You could always reach out to me later. I'll have my contact information at the end. I organize my images today by genres, so you can get an idea of what it is you can shoot with LensBaby. This is not by any stretch of the imagination everything that you can do with LensBaby. It's really basically what I've done with LensBaby. I'll talk a little bit about my post-processing and then where you can find me after tonight. So let's be creative. My biggest reason for picking up a LensBaby is to create work that is uniquely mine. I don't want to stand shoulder to shoulder with 2 or 3 or 10 other photographers and walk away with an image that just looks like everybody else's. I want an image that is mine. And I take it as a real pat on the back when somebody sees a picture on social media and says, I knew it was yours. So that means that I'm doing something that other people are not doing. And that's really what it is I want to do. I also like telling stories. The blur of Lens Baby allows you to tell stories in a way that you can't really do anywhere else. You're able to isolate your subject with a line of focus while blurring out all the other unimportant elements in your frame. If you look at this image, I took it with an iPhone 13, but I used a Lens Baby Omni with this image. I couldn't have created that blur in the side in camera with any other product. So this is why I like using these things. It gave me a unique story that no other photographer is going to do. In all honesty, I probably couldn't come back and take this same exact picture again. So Lens Baby has basically 3 types of products. They have standalone lenses. A couple of them are fixed aperture. A couple of them have aperture ranges to them. So, you know, it might be anywhere from f1.4 to f16. Some of them are 2.5. It just depends on the actual lenses. The fixed aperture lenses are straight f3.5 lenses. They also have what's called the optic swap system. And the optic swap system is a variety of optics. And think about just the lens of something very small that can be popped in and out of a housing. So like the barrel of your lens, except for you can change the glass at the end to give you different effects. Lens Baby actually sells, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4 housings currently. If this is a road you want to go down, I would recommend starting with just one. One of them is basically a video, like if you're shooting movies and stuff, there's a very expensive one too, which is, you know, not what most people need. But we'll talk a little bit about how and why I use that tonight. And then there is the Omni Creative Filter System. And this is a series of crystals, gels, plastic shapes that can be used individually or alone, or you can use multiple at a time. If you attach them to a ring that attaches to the front of your camera, similar to a filter, but with nothing inside, just a magnetic ring, and the wands and filters magnetically attached to that. And I'll show you a little bit about that coming up. So some quick tips before I get started. I always think that I'm going to remember to say these things during my presentation, but invariably at the end of a presentation, I say, oh man, I forgot to say that. So Lens Baby lenses are all manual. You set them manually and you focus manually. The aperture does not show on your EXIF data. That is because there is no electrical connection between your camera and your lens. So this is very difficult for a lot of people who don't understand how to shoot in manual, but there are ways to get even a basic lens with Lens Baby and have the difficulty of learning the exposure triangle and learning how to shoot manual and making it slightly easier. One of my recommendations, if you are using your Lens Baby, any of the products, and you're trying to find a composition, if you see something you think you like, take the picture. You might not find that same composition again. The light might not just hit right again. And this is especially true if you're going to use the Omni system. There have been so many times when I wanted to kick myself for not taking the picture because when I went back in just a simple rotation of my wand, I couldn't find what I just saw again. So the next thing, allow yourself time to play and make mistakes. If you're new to Lens Baby, there is a bit of a learning curve. For some people, it doesn't take long. For some people, they get more frustrated. It took me 3 years before I picked up a Lens Baby after I picked up my first one. But in all honesty, right now, it's probably what I shoot with 95% of the time. Don't assume you can't. I have so many of the people that will email me and say, can I do this or can I do that? And my response is, I don't know, can you? Did you try it? Give yourself permission to just try it and see if it works. You don't have anything to lose. You can always delete the picture once after you download it onto your computer if you don't like it. It takes a little while to come to that mindset, but if you allow yourself to play, to create something that is unique or even weird in the very beginning, my advice to you is not to delete it right away. Sit on it for a little bit, think about it, look at it. The images that when I first started shooting with Lens Baby, if I would post them online, the ones that I thought were the weirdest, and I wasn't quite sure I liked them and wanted to put them out there, were the ones that everybody else liked the best. Now, I don't want to base everything I shoot on what everybody else likes, but for me to post it online, it had to mean there was something about it I liked, but I wasn't quite sure why I liked it. And sometimes the feedback that I got pointed me in the right direction. So the next thought is, just because a lens or an optic may be better suited for one genre, it's okay to try it in another. And that goes for focal length too. I'm going to show you an image or two tonight that is shot with an 85mm, which is the longest lens that Lens Baby makes. But typically it's not a lens that I would pick up to shoot a landscape, but it's okay, I did. I also have macro that I have shot with a 28mm and a 22mm. So this is where experimentation and playing and trial and error will benefit you later. So these are the 3 lenses that Lens Baby has that are fixed aperture lenses. They have 2 soles, a 45 and a 22. The 22 is made just for micro Four Thirds cameras. I don't know a lot about micro Four Thirds cameras. Actually, I know nothing about them other than Lens Baby makes a lens for them. The Sol 45 is for DSLR or mirrorless cameras. And the Sweet 22 is just a mirrorless lens. Now you'll see, especially it's easier to see in the first 2, that both of the soles actually tilt slightly. And by tilting the lens, you're changing the focal plane of the lens somewhat. The rings here at the top are what you will turn to get focus where it is you want to focus. Lens Baby lenses are all center focus. Like, you can't move your focus ring in your camera, or your focus point, excuse me. You can't move your focus point in your camera and get the camera to focus somewhere else. Lens Baby lenses focus in the center. Now, what I do want to say is you can cheat that a little bit. And actually this, like, let's just pretend that the letter R is what I want to focus, letter E is what I want to focus on. This is even better. Because this lens is going to focus in the center, this is where my focus is going to land. So you have to pay attention when you're looking at the camera. You're going to really have to chimp a lot in the very beginning if you're having a hard time finding focus. Because if you shoot this way and this is where focus is, you're not going to get the E in focus. So you're going to have to move your focus ring because it's tilted, and you'll be able to get the E in focus. It's a little bit harder for me to explain because I don't get into the technicals of all of it, but it does work. You can get focus somewhat off to the side. You're not going to get it on the edges, but you can move it slightly from side to side or up and down. The Sweet 22 is really a pancake lens. It has the most blur of any lens baby lens out there. I absolutely love using this lens for macro, and in a little while you will find out why. These three lenses are Lens Baby's babies. There's the Velvet 28, the Velvet 56, and the 85. These are standalone lenses, and you can see each of these has an aperture range and each slightly different. They call these macro 1 to 2, as you can see on the side of these lenses. So they don't shoot true 1-to-1 macro. 1 to 2, which means it's not quite as close in. You have to back off a little bit. But you can cheat that too a little bit by using either extension tubes between your camera and the lens, or by putting macro filters on the fronts of your lenses. I don't do that because I like putting things in my pockets and I would just break filters. And I started out with extension tubes, and that's just the way that I have continued. The other lenses that Lens Baby has are called it's part of the Optic Swap series. So this bottom part right here is a Composer Pro 2. It's a housing. This one tilts. This silver screw on the bottom is what will tighten it so it will stay in any direction you want it. You can put it up, down, side to side, or any angle in between. Oops, let me go back here. And this at the top is called an optic. So this is what changes the type of lens and the type of blur you're going to get. And it takes a little bit of practice in the beginning to pop these in and out, but then it becomes very easy. So they have several different series. This is an Edge series, and they make it in a 35 millimeter, a 50, and an 80. And what the Edge will do is give you a slice of focus in any direction, as long as it is somewhat of an angle. If you have the Composer Pro pointed straight forward, you will not get a line of focus. If you tilt it a little bit left, right, up, down, or at an angle, you will get a slice of focus in that one. The Sweet series, now this is an optic that a couple of you talked about having. That also comes in 3 focal lengths, a 35, a 50, and an 80. And it has a spot of tack sharp focus surrounded by blur. The Sweet is one of the optics that a lot of people start with when they start with a Composer. The Double Glass 2 optic is probably the newest optic that they have out there. And it's sort of a combination of 3 previous optics. It's an upgrade on the original double glass. It has aperture discs that will drop in here that change the shape of the bokeh, and I will show you some of those shapes today. So they also made a creative aperture optic. So this combines the two of them. So, and it is also has the sweet spot that the Sweet has in it. So one of my favorite optics, to absolutely be sure. Now the Soft Focus 2 optic, I got to beta test this optic, and I have to tell you, when they, and it wasn't, I didn't say this, one of the people from Lens Baby said it, it's a velvet on steroids. This does have some subtly sharp focus below a layer of glow. It is not recommended to be tilted. However, because we're Lens Baby people, we like to break the rules. I have tilted this lens. You just have to watch how far you're going because of the way that it sits inside here. You might get some of the actual lens like in the corner of your image. or you can get like the darkening around the sides. A lot of people just crop that out. But they sell this on the website as a standalone lens because they put it in a straight body. But there's only 2 of these optics that they recommend for a straight body. And I'm like, well, why do I need 2 housings? Just give me this one and I'll just keep this one straight when I use this. So, not to say if somebody hands you one, you don't use the other one, you know, or if you get one really cheap, you find them used online, because I have found my share of Lens Baby things online like that as well. Now, this is the Omni Creative Filter System. The parts that you see on the left are not all of the Omni pieces that Lens Baby sells. But the picture on the right is actually me. And that's actually a selfie. I did that with my cell phone. But this is the double glass 2 with one of those bokeh-shaped discs in it. So I have a star in it here, and I'm holding up, one of the gels that Lens Baby makes for it. I will show you later the picture that I took with this gel, but I'm hand holding it here. If you don't want to hand hold it, you can pop over here and attach it on this ring. So this is a metal ring, and they have these, shoot, I forget what these little things are called. Yokes. And then they have the arms so that you can attach a wand directly to these yokes here, or you can extend it out away with the yokes. If you want to attach 2 or 3 at one time, you can. There's no rules. You make up your rules as you go. They sell these in 2 different sizes. My advice to you is if you want to buy these, because this is a great and very inexpensive way to get started with Lens Baby, is think about what lenses you would be most likely to use it on and buy the ring that is bigger than that, or at least that size, and everything smaller, and then just use step rings to add this to your lens. They also make a small attachment for the Omni, for the optic swap system, for the composer. Because of the weight of it, they had to change how it screwed on. They had to actually attach it more towards the body of the composer rather than the front of the optic. So if you have any questions about that later, because I know that that can be very confusing. A couple of accessories I talked about. They have extension tubes. They call them macro converters for the optic swap system, and they also sell macro filters. I had my own macro filters. They're fine to use. No reason why you can't. And because I use extension tubes between my camera and my lens, I don't need to put this between my Composer Pro 2 and my optic. I just do it the other way. I don't like carrying more gear than I have to. So one of the reasons I became a Lens Baby, and one of the things that really hit home for me and really made me think that this is what Lens Baby is, when I read this Minor White quote. And one should not only photograph things for what they are, but also for what else they are. I'm just going to leave you with that for a minute. Now we're going to talk about genres. So I'm going to take you today everything from macro through landscape. Each of these images was done with a Lens Baby. So let's first talk about a little, before I go any further, does anybody have any questions?
Do they still make the twist lens, Cathy?
The Twist 60, yes, they do. You will see that here. That's not one that I pick up often. And I'll talk a little bit about that when I get to that slide in here.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. So, well, let me go back because I didn't really talk about this one. So this image here, I shot on, I stopped down at, I think it was Assateague. The same day or the day after, Lens Baby sent me the Omni Shapes pack for that system. And I had to beta test it. So I, found the little beach here and I grabbed my Velvet 28 and I took my first picture of this landscape. Now, if you'll remember, the Velvet 28, like the Velvets have a glow to them. And so I was shooting this more on the wide open side. And that's actually how the Omnis work best, but don't limit yourself. But I took one of the shapes and just put it across the top of my frame. And that's where I got this really cool bokeh. One of the plastic shapes is called Swiss cheese. And I don't know if it still comes like this, but when I got the Swiss cheese, one of the sides was covered with a blue film, like a medium blue film. And I knew I was supposed to peel it off, but I had to try it with the film on to see what I got. And it worked perfectly for my sky. My sky would have been dull and boring otherwise. But now I have something creative and I have something that will stop somebody long enough to look and at least make them curious about what it is they're looking at. The image on the left, I shot just last week with my Velvet 28. Now, I probably shot this at f4, and that's the little gazebo at Longwood Gardens down by one of the ponds. And there's nothing at all spectacular about that image. But for me, that's kind of the beauty of Lens Baby. If I want a simple picture, I can do it with the Lens Baby lens. I don't also have to carry an 85mm lens in my pocket or in my bag. So I've lightened the load, and as I get older, that's kind of important for me. The image on the right was shot with the double glass 2 and the bird's disc. You'll find that several of the images in here are shot with that double glass 2, but I love the fact that when you're shooting with the double glass 2 and you're shooting wide open or close to wide open, you get almost abstract or impressionistic images. This is what that minor white quote means to me. Okay, I photographed this for what else it was, not just what I saw. So the image on the left, again, that same double glass with the bird's disc. Now, I have to tell you, when I shot this image, again, I was beta testing the double glass 2. And this white here, I believe, is a person who comes along a little bit later, but the way that it rendered the blur here, like, I don't know, I felt like I was outside but in a church at the same time. And this looks like white doves. The bokeh is in the shape of the birds, and I actually had the birds sort of, flying in a direction that they would be, not like sometimes when I forget and they're upside down or sideways or whatever. So this one, you kind of have to worry about which way they're in, unless you really want abstract, and then maybe it doesn't matter. But again, I photographed this for what else it was, not exactly what I saw. The photograph on the right, I took with the Edge 35. Now the Edge is supposed to give me a slice of focus, but I didn't use this optic this way this time. And I was also working on double exposures. This image was 2 ICM images blurred together or fused together in camera. Now, I did not have a neutral density filter on at this time. So I had to stop down, and I was probably at F11 or F16 when I was able to get a slow enough shutter speed to do an ICM. But, you know, you can sort of tell I'm in the woods. You can probably tell that this area here is a reflection in water. You know, the bluish over here where there's not much reflected in it. But again, this is not an image that everybody else is going to take. Do your images have to be this extreme? No. But can you play and maybe create something that you find is really cool? Absolutely. Okay, here I am again on the left with the double glass 2. And all I used with this time was one of the Omnis, and I believe it was a rainbow filter, but I just reflected a little something back into my image to make it look like this was a double exposure, but it wasn't. It was a single exposure. And, you know, my focus was here on the doors of this cabin, which is where I wanted it to be. And then everything else just falls off into blur. Now, the image on the right was taken with the Velvet 28 plus one of the Omnis. Now, I did not, usually when I import my pictures, I try to remember which optics and which lenses and which Omnis I'm using, but I don't always remember to do that. But this was taken with the Velvet, and it was already like a little bit soft, but my sky was so boring and there was nothing here. But I added an Omni in front of it. You know, this was really kind of gray, and the Omni gave me a little bit of blue-ish color. And it just kind of gave me, you know, a really hazy feel to it. It was just a little bit something extra, while still keeping my focus somewhat sharp on the building here, but letting everything else fall off into blur. So here we go. I used an Omni and a landscape, but I used it with a Nikon lens. So the Omni gave me this really cool flare up in New York. I went on a trip with the Chester County Camera Club, bus trip we did up there. And I took the Nikon with me because I had just gotten a mirrorless camera and I wanted to feel it out and see what it would do. I did have at least one of my lens babies with me, but I also had a bag full of Omnis with me, so I tried it out. The image on the right, I shot with an Omni Crystal and my iPhone 13. And it really was just a sunset and a silhouette of like the trees on the horizon. And, you know, I got a pretty cool kind of abstract image out of it. So there's a couple of others that are not quite that abstract coming up. So just think about the possibilities. I do a little street photography, but not a ton. I was at a big craft fair down in Wilmington, and this go away sign surrounded by 2 welcome signs really made me chuckle. So a little bit of a contradiction there. And I had my camera with me. I also had the Edge 35 on my camera. So what I was trying for here was this line of focus. Now, it's not perfect. I am definitely off. But again, this takes practice learning how to get this exactly right. But the people in the picture are not part of my story. This is part of my story, but I didn't want it to be a vertical image. If I did a vertical image later, I might not remember where I was, but this gives me enough detail that I can tell you exactly where I was. And it all leads you right here to the go away sign. So this tells a story and it helps me remember a story. Here's another image I shot with my cell phone and an Omni Crystal. So more detail on this. This is down on the waterfront in Wilmington, Delaware. But again, it sort of looks like a double exposure, but I did it with my cell phone. This is the way that I can cheat when my husband and I are going out to dinner and I'm not supposed to bring my camera with me. Don't bring my big girl camera, but I do throw a couple of Omni ones in my pocketbook because I can use them with my cell phone. So it's a little bit of cheating on date night. The image on the right was a Velvet 28 double exposure in New York. So anything that you can do, any technique, we'll say, I'm pretty sure, I'll say most techniques maybe, just to be safe, that you can do with a regular camera, you can do with a Lens Baby. So you can do double exposures, you can do ICMs, like all of that stuff. If you can do it in your camera, you can do it with a Lens Baby lens on you. This is another double exposure I did with the double glass 2. So this has significantly more blur on it, but I picked the right blend mode in my camera to get it done. Here's an image on the right that I did with the Edge 35. So this is giving me this line of focus. And Jay, was this the photo shoot you did with me in Westchester?
Yes.
Okay. So I remember walking up with this group of people because this is one of the ladies. And I remembered seeing the greenhouse and thinking, oh man, I hope they sell flowers and plants in there. I wasn't quite sure what it was. And because it had the green door, like I wasn't, it kind of threw me a little bit. But anyway, this is what I wanted to remember out of that day. I didn't need to know the cars were on the side. I didn't need to know that the people were there or who they were. I just wanted the door and the sign. So that told the story that I wanted to tell. The image here on the left was down on Rainbow Row in Charleston. And again, I used an edge and the Omni shapes. Now, if you remember, I was beta testing Omni shapes when I was at Assateague. I made it to Charleston, but right here in this image was a trash can. And I, for the life of me, could not figure out how to frame it because I loved this greenhouse. I got focus on this greenhouse. I loved back here that I have just enough definition on this chef who I think is trying to get people to come into a restaurant, but I wanted to get rid of the trash can. So I used the Omni just to create some blur in here and get rid of the trash can. In the image on the right, the dispensing company, the name of it just kind of made me laugh that day. I didn't want the people. I didn't need to see the people in this. So up here, I used the edge. All I did was push it straight up and I got a horizontal line of focus up here. So the only thing that I wish I had done on this picture was pulled back a little. And I may have, but I think I wasn't straight enough so that when I straighten this, then I lost my extra space at the top. So even I learn as I go here. Next, we'll talk a little bit about macro. Now, macro is my favorite subject. If you didn't do any research on me beforehand, you'll find it out very quickly if you check out any of my social media or my website. But again, I'm really pulling out here the images that I took that are more unique. So the image on the left is with one of the Omni shapes. And that Omni shape is called a paddle. I like to call it a gate. I think the actual shape resembles a gate. And these are like the vertical stiles or rails or whatever you call them. But this is a flower that was backlit. But I just loved the way that the light came through this plastic piece that has a silver coating on the front. And I got all these cool circular bokeh shapes in here that kind of reminded me of bubbles. So I like to call this my fish underwater in prison or something like that. I forget what I initially titled it, but it's just unique. Yes, it's weird, but I'm okay with it. The image on the right is the Sweet 22. Now, I told you in the beginning, this has the most blur of any Lens Baby lens. So this is a poppy I took at Longwood and very recently, and you'll see that I have focus off to the center here. And that's because I was not completely parallel with that flower. I angled the camera somewhat so that the distance between the lens and the subject was kind of put the center right here instead of being over here. But anyway, there's a ton of blur in that. Now, you know, my reds are probably blown here, but you know, you don't have to take pictures of red poppies if you don't want to. So the images on the left, that's a spider web. And I purposely shot the spider web out of focus, but I actually put like twinkle lights or a set of Christmas lights behind my spider web. It was kind of early in the morning and I wanted to see what would happen. Again, I just tried it. I didn't say, can I, should I? I didn't call my friend and say, what do you think? I just tried it. And Lens Baby really has me kind of out of my comfort zone. And I'm not a person who takes risks very much, but I really started taking a lot more risks with my photography once I picked up a Lens Baby. The image on the right is just the Velvet 85. Probably fairly close to wide open and with an extension tube on it. The extension tube allows me to get focus even closer. I think the Velvet 85, you can focus up to 5 inches away. Once you get inside of 5 inches, you're not really going to find focus with that unless you have extension tubes on or macro filters on your lens. The other thing I absolutely love doing is reverse free lensing. And my favorite lens to do that with is the Velvet 56. So I love getting so little in focus that I almost don't know what it is I'm looking at times. Now here, there's enough, you know, this is a weird thing to focus on, but I loved the way on the image on the left here that the stem went up and I just have this yellow framing at the top. It works for me. You know, and I got just the very tip of this Rudbeckia. I think that's what that was. Sometimes it's hard to tell when they're dead. But anyway, but reverse free lensing allows you to take a lens like the Velvet 56. It's another way to get a little bit closer than the lens typically allows, that the settings of the lens allow. So I do not use an adapter when I reverse free lens. I just hand hold it. And I find the 56 focal length very easy to work with. Not so much when I go up past 56, but I have been known to reverse free lens with the Sweet 22. You can get some really tack sharp focus with the these lenses. So the image on the left is with the Velvet 56. And you know, I probably had to have my ISO up a little higher so that, you know, I could get a shutter speed fast enough that the B would be in focus. But I made this one work. And then I dropped the lens. But because I tripped over something behind me. But when I fell, I had to decide if I was dropping my camera or the lens, and I kind of tossed the lens up so I could brace with my hand, and the lens landed in my lap. I was really lucky, but I got the shot. So anyway, the image on the right is the Sweet 22, and this was shot with the Omni Neon. Now they just came out with the neons, and supposedly once they sell through whatever it is they made originally, they're not going to have any more made or make any more. And originally, in all honesty, I wasn't thrilled with the neon. I thought I found them harder to work with, but it just challenged me to find a way to make it work. So now here, I think part of this works is because of the color. And I should have included, I have some I did with some landscape and a horse, and it worked out pretty well too, but I apologize. I did not include that in this presentation. We would be here all night. So night photography is something that I don't do much of, but that I find is really fun from time to time. And I have a friend who teaches adult classes and actually does kids summer camps, photography summer camps, Mark Berkfist. And he did a fire spinning class. And this was one of the things he did at fire spinning. But with fire spinning, I was supposed to have something besides a lens baby with me. And I don't remember if I had it this night or not, but it's one of those things that I just kind of made do with what I did have. And this was the double glass too. Now, I could have stopped down more for this, but I didn't. I wanted to see what would happen if I didn't. I also must have been tilting a little bit because my focus isn't anywhere here near the center. It's sort of up a little higher where I got sort of these sparks a little bit more in focus rather than all blurry. But I kind of like this. It's fun. It's silly. It's a great fall or Halloween kind of a picture. You can do long exposures. So the image on the left was shot. Oh, I'm trying to remember where. I was actually with Val Hoffman when I shot that image. One of her little jaunts that she did. But anyway, you know, like wide angle, and it worked. Now, the image on the right, I shot with a soft focus too. And for some photographers and lens baby photographers, they'll tell you that's their favorite optic. It's not mine. But there are things that I have shot with it that I absolutely love. So the soft focus too, if you'll remember, is like the velvet on steroids. So this is all very, very soft and silhouetted. But there was something about this that just spoke to me. You know, it probably a little bit about the colors of the sunset. But even the trees, like it just feels, you know, somewhat like a little bit spooky. And if I was shooting this in October, I was probably in that kind of a mood. Now I'm back to the Velvet 28 and the Omni shapes. The image on the left was shot at Longwood Gardens just this past Christmas season. And I used one of the Omni shapes to frame this lantern. And I got all these really, really cool colors. So typically when I am shooting almost with any of my lens babies, I am typically shooting at about f4. I don't think that I stopped down very much, if I stopped down at all, because if you can see, like this side of the lantern, things are pretty out of focus. My focus seems to be hitting over here some, but it gave me all this really cool refraction into my lens. Now, the Burnside 35, I included here just because I absolutely love this picture. And again, this one was taken at Longwood. I absolutely love this lens. They don't make it anymore. And as much as we try to convince them otherwise, they're not going to make it again. But if you have the opportunity to pick up one of these cheap, I don't think that you would be disappointed. So the image on the left, I'm back to my Velvet 28. That's the Ravenel Bridge down right outside between Lake Charleston and Sullivan's Island. And I'm shooting directly into the sunset. There is probably nothing in that picture that is actually in focus, and I do not care. That's like the screensaver on my computer right now. I absolutely just love it. That image was the image that I was talking about, that I was shooting when you saw that picture of me with the double glass 2 optic and the gel in front. This was just a little bit later that evening, but this is the color that that gel put into that image. Okay, it was still, the sun had not set. It was still plenty bright. But I, you know, exposed for my highlights, I probably blew the sun. I mean, I definitely blew the sun out. That doesn't bother me. But I just love the blur and the feel of this. If I can't feel something when I look at one of my images, it's usually not one that I keep around very long. You can also shoot fireworks with your Lens Baby images. So I know Val likes to rotate her lens a lot when she shoots her fireworks. I have done that in the past too. Well, this past summer, I tried to rotate the barrel on the double glass, and this is what I got. And if you'll see that circular bokeh that I had in my fish in prison underwater picture, it's the same thing that I have going on here. So I just like I started in focus or where what I hoped was going to be in focus and rotated it out of focus. That's typically what I do. Sometimes I go out of focus to in focus, but then you never really know exactly where to stop. So I try to start where I think in focus is going to be and then rotate out. So the next thing I'm going to talk about kind of genre here is a little bit of abstract and impressionism. So Lens Baby lenses are great for this. And if I apologize, I'm sorry, I forgot to shut my alarms off. If this is something that you're interested in, Lens Babies are great. So if you'll remember my outside image that I felt like I was like in a cathedral church, this is the lady who was crossing the bridge, and there was another person over here waiting for her. So very abstract. I have the bird's disc in here again, but I have enough sort of in focus that you can tell what's going on here. Like you can sort of tell this person's moving. You can see a bridge. She's walking across a bridge. And this is what made me keep this optic in my bag. Here's my soft focus too. Again, not my favorite image, but it creates some beautifully almost abstract impressionist images. I actually picked it up and took it to Longwood with me last week, and it'll be in my bag way more often now. So the image on the left, it's actually my background, I think, here for tonight. I took that with the Velvet 85. And except for the trees, there's nothing really, like the trees were green, the background was green, the grass was green. You know, the trunks of the trees obviously are brown. But I took that with the Velvet 85. And, you know, it is a landscape. And it was an in-camera double exposure. And what I didn't include on there was ICM. I did a vertical swipe and a horizontal swipe. And then I took it into Photoshop and played a little bit with some impressionistic filters. I'm actually doing a creative photography class myself for this whole long year. And a lot of what I'm learning is editing, which I absolutely hate doing. It's a good reason to pick up a Lens Baby because there really isn't much editing to do. But I didn't like this image enough to keep it until I edited and added other colors in. And then to me, it was worth it. Like this is one image I think I'm going to print and have my husband build a new wall so I can hang it up somewhere. The image on the right was my attempt at doing a pet ventosa. It's the first time I've ever tried anything like this. And I did it with the Edge 85 or 35. I did close down some for this, but I kept my Composer Pro straight because I wanted the center of this to be as much in focus as I could. I wasn't worried about the outside, but if I tried to have the edge just in focus here, none of this would line up. And if I wanted a vertical, none of that would line up. So this was actually a 10 image multiple exposure. I did it in camera, but I didn't like the results. So I brought it into Photoshop and did it again, and then just added the layer with the bench that was here, and then just masks everything back out with the bench. Like I wanted the bench to be in focus. So you can do a lot with these lenses. They are very versatile. Now here's the Twist 60 for whoever asked me about the Twist 60. The image on the left is Mayan. My model here, I was taking her graduation pictures from college. She was really closer to the background than I wanted her to be. So I asked a friend of mine, Melissa Takaruski. She's actually a Canadian lens baby trailblazer, if she had an image that I could use. So she very kindly gave me this. And if you'll see, you've got this really circular bokeh in the background. To use the twist, be it on a portrait or even like flower photography, you need separation between your subject and your background, and you need specular highlights back here. That's what helps create that circular blur. So I have taken macro images with this, but I had to make sure that, like, I had a tree behind me that had a lot of, or tree behind my flower that had a lot of light filtering through it. But my flower was 5 or 8 feet from the tree. So it worked. But you can do a lot with this lens. It's just not something, I don't do portrait photography. I did this one for a friend of mine's daughter. But other than that, I don't really like to shoot people. So I'm going to talk a little bit about editing now. And this is an image I took at Longwood Gardens last week, and this was with the Sweet 22. I did an in-camera double exposure, and when I got home and looked at it, I liked it, but I didn't love it. So I took an image from another double exposure because my camera, I have it set to save my original images, and I layered another image just to give this a little bit of bounce. But again, like every other lens or every other camera, if you can do it in that with a different lens, you can do it with a Lens Baby. But all I had to do literally was lay this on top and mask it out. I didn't add color. I didn't do anything to this image. Well, I did do something, and I'll get into that in a minute. So the beauty of Lens Baby is creating your images in camera. I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend a lot of time sitting at my computer editing. It's not my favorite part of being a photographer. It's not to say you can't do it. I do still do it once in a while, and I'm taking a class right now that is forcing me to do it, but it's really not what makes me happy. And sitting behind beside a desk and sitting in front of a computer doesn't really foster my creativity. Being out with my camera is what does that. So my typical workflow when I get back and start looking through things and I find an image I like, I might adjust a little bit for exposure and shadows and maybe color balance. I will try some double exposure things now and then. I try to do it in camera first. If it doesn't work in camera, and I had an idea of what I wanted when I was trying to do it in camera, but couldn't do it, I have a little bit more control at a computer because I have so many more blend modes to choose from. So I will do it a little bit, but I try not to. But the other thing that I will tell you I spend a ton of time doing is cloning dust spots. And that's because I like to reverse free lens way too much. This is another quote that was on the Lens Baby website. And it's not their motto, but I like to call it their mission statement. Lens Baby is the enemy of perfection, an ally of the unusual, and an advocate for the unique. I don't know which of the Lens Baby people said it or if they got it from somewhere else. I just happened to find it there. But to me, nothing could be further from the truth. Lens Baby will tell you if you find one of their lens or make it able to do something that you haven't seen before, share it with them. They want to know. Because it's not that there's anything wrong with the lens, it's somebody found a way to use it and use it differently. So I want to thank you for joining me tonight. If you have any questions after the meeting, you can reach me. The contact page on my website is cathyalicephotography.com. It is a very simple basic Lens Baby portfolio. When you get to the portfolio page, each image, if you scroll over it, will tell you what the other images, what lens the other images in that stack of images are shot with. So if you scroll over it and it says Suite 22, click on it. Every image in that folder will be a Suite 22. I only have on there the lenses and optics that I own. So there are actually, I think there's one optic, the Edge 80, that I just got last week. I think I might own at least all of the current ones. I actually own a couple of the ones that have since been retired. But there are also some videos down at the bottom, and there's also a folder with the Omni things in it. Currently, I'm trying to go through and add if I used an Omni in it, or if I used extension tubes, or if it was a double exposure or an ICM. I didn't do that originally, but people have asked questions about it, like, well, how did you get this? And it wasn't in camera with nothing else. Like, there was something else that I did. I used an Omni, or I was able to get in closer because I used an extension tube. So I'm trying to help people out like that. You can find me on Instagram at Cathy Alice Photography, or on Facebook at Cathy Alice. If you decide at some point to go shopping at lensbaby.com, you can use my affiliate code, and it's W and my last name, Kuhlman. It'll get you 10% off. And the asterisk means that they usually don't do it on a new release, and they may not do it on some sales. But what I say is try it anyway. People have gotten new releases because they forgot to turn off the affiliate codes or the affiliate links. So a couple people have lucked out along the way, but it's always just a good idea just to try it. All right, does anybody have any questions? I think I can probably stop my screen share now.
What lenses did they stop making recently? Because I was just on their website, just did some searching, and it seems like some lenses aren't popping up when you do a search.
Well, the Burnside 35, they stopped maybe a couple of years ago.
Any reason why they stopped making it? Not selling, or
Well,
what?
they don't share that with us.
Okay.
You know, we're not kind of part of that part of the company. Some of the things on the website they took off when they had trouble sourcing parts. I said I just got the Edge 50 just last week. I ordered that in January, but the parts for it were back ordered, and then it kind of got stuck in the tariff issues with getting things from companies. So at one point, rather than saying they were back ordered, they just took them off the website. And, you know, we kind of made the suggestion, just put it up there and put like back ordered or something. But the problem was, you know, like people were paying for it and then weren't getting it. So they have to work that out on their end. But you know, they still sell all the edges. They still sell all the velvets. They do still sell the twist. I don't know about the Creative Bokeh optic, but you can get that same thing with the Double Glass 2 optic. They do still sell the Suite or the Soft Focus 2 as far as I know. And then the Souls and the Soul 45, the Soul 22 and the Suite 20, they're all still there. The Omni system, they've repackaged them. They've come out with a couple of them and discontinued several of them. I managed to pick up a couple originally, like at B&H, like after Lens Baby had discontinued them. You know, Lens Baby didn't have them anymore, but B&H was glad to charge me full price for them. So they would take my money. But you just kind of have to, you have to look. And if you have any questions, the Laura, the girl that does probably 95% of their customer service, is excellent at finding answers for you. And she's at like customer happiness at lensbaby.com.
Kathy,
Yeah.
what is the difference between the Composer Pro and the Composer Pro 2?
The Composer Pro 2 has more metal construction. It's beefier. And I think that that's, in all honesty, basically it. I have the original Composer, and I will take the Composer Pro 2 any day over top of it. It just feels better in my hands. It feels more secure on my camera. Like, it just feels better.
But you can use the same optics with the Composer Pro?
Yes, the optics are interchangeable with any of the housings. So if you can put it in a Composer, you can put it in the straight housing, you can put it in the Composer Pro 2, you can put it in the Spark. The Spark is the one that sort of looks like it has a vacuum hose in the middle of it. Like, you have to like squeeze and tilt that one. I do not have that. That's a product I need to get. But if you don't have any of that yet, I would not recommend you start with the Spark, because that's a lot of learning curve. I've been at this for a few years and I still haven't gotten it yet, but I have a friend who bought it first. So, you just never say never.
So yeah, the tariff issue is why it's not on a Lens Baby site, but if you go to B&H, they probably have some stock that you could buy.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how close can you get the soft focus 2 to the Velvet? If you stop down the soft focus 2, have you experimented with it? Can you get it pretty much the same as the Velvet? Because I can't stand carrying around that heavy Velvet lens. I know it's a
Okay.
beautiful lens, but it's heavy.
With the lenses that you can stop down, what they say is typically if you get above f8, you have a prime lens on your hand. So yes, you can get away from the velvety glow on a Velvet or on the soft focus too.
Right, but is the soft focus, like you said, is the Velvet on steroids?
Right. But
So-
but see, as you're closing down, you're losing that effect.
Right.
So what they tell us, and I haven't tried it with the Suite. Like I said, I haven't shot a ton with the Suite, but they say that basically any lens, any of their lenses, once you're above f8, you have a prime lens on your hand. So you shouldn't have any effect at all. I have shot at f8 and had maybe a little tiny bit around the edges.
Well, let me ask it this way. What aperture do you typically, would you say you typically shoot the Velvet at?
4.
4, okay. So if I shoot the soft focus 2 at, let's say 5.6, would that be similar to the Velvet at 4?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get close to it. I can't tell you it's going to be exact, but yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely, like be one click up, at least maybe 2. You just have to try it and see where you're hit, because eventually you're going to hit no
Right.
effect.
Right.
So, and even with the Velvets, I tend not to shoot my Velvets any more wide open than 4. It's rare that I go down to 2.8 or 2, or one of them is 1 point something, I think. I don't like all of that velvety glow. I just don't enjoy it. I will, however, like if I'm super in close, like with my Velvets and I have an extension tube on, I will stop down to 5.6, and on a very rare occasion 8. But typically I will tell you that I would be happy at f4 and if they didn't change, I would still be okay with it. anyway. Anybody else
Anybody
have
else?
any? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, anybody else have any questions for Cathy? How about at the Goggle Works?
I put them all to sleep.
I think a lot of people here have used it or tried them, and everybody's saying you don't have any questions. No questions. I'm looking at Kim, and I'm surprised Jeff doesn't have one, because just yesterday he said he's a gearhead. He owns everything, so maybe tomorrow.
They would have been neat to try at the portrait workshop you had.
Oh, there's a couple questions on pricing. Velvet 56. Yeah. I think
Velvet 56, probably about $450 when it's not on sale. I will tell you that Black Friday weekend tends to be pretty beneficial. They a lot of times will do like 25% off of everything. And only one time since I've been an ambassador did they not let people use our codes that weekend. Like, but they will do like a, a sale for, I don't know, a week or 10 days or whatever when, all the velvets are on sale, or, the optics are on sale, or something else, the omnis might be on sale. So you just have to pay attention to it. And we don't get advance notice of when that's happening. The only thing I can tell you is, usually Black Friday is enough if you're willing to be patient.
Anybody else? No. The one question I have, and if you can explain it there, but I think I know what you're talking about, is the freehand reverse.
Oh, the reverse free lensing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means it's not connected to your camera at all. You're just holding in front.
Correct.
Right. And you can basically do that with any lens, but with the Lens Baby, that you're doing that. Why?
Because it allows me, first of all, if I don't have an extension tube with me, it allows me to focus closer than the lens itself will allow. And I also have that blur too.
Oh, okay.
Now, the one thing that I did not mention, if you're doing an extension tube, you do lose a little bit of the effect. In all honesty, I don't notice it. If you put a macro filter on the front, supposedly you don't lose the effect. I try really hard not to get involved in all the technicals. I am more about what I see, I like, I feel this works fine for me. And because I don't want to break filters, I tend not to carry them with me anyway. But if that's something that's really important to you and you really, really like the effect and you don't want to lose any of it, but you want to get closer than the lens will allow, you can put filters on the front. You can also stack filters. You can use extension tubes and filters. Like, you can go as crazy as you want if you're getting the results that you like. If you don't like it, you just don't do it.
So the front of the lens has a screw-on filter, just
Yeah.
like any.
Yes. Like you can use neutral density filters on them if you want, or, if you're one of those people who likes putting a, what's the word I'm thinking of? Because I don't use the filters on my Lens Babies.
Polarizer?
Polarizer. Yeah. Or the UV filter. A lot of people just put a UV filter on it, like to protect their glass. So yeah. There is one optic that does not have the screws on it. And off the top of my head, I can't remember which one it is, but they did make an adapter that it allows you to put a filter on the front of it. So Lens Baby does sell it. If there's something that you think that you have seen or heard about, but it's not on the website, contact customer happiness at lensbaby.com, because sometimes they do have it and they will make a special order for it, even though it's not on the website. So the other thing that they might still be doing, if anybody is interested in the Omni thing, I saw it as late as yesterday advertised, but they were doing a free Omni mini kit with, I believe, 2 wands. And all you're paying for is shipping. It's like $25, which is really more than shipping, but just kind of covers the basic cost, but they're not making any money off of it. And you know, for $25, you get something to play with, and you can decide if you know, want to buy in more. But you can, you know, check on the website and see if it's still there, or look on their social media accounts, because sometimes it's easier to find it there.
There's a student that comes to a lot of my workshops, and she's hooked on Lens Babies, especially those little drop-in bokeh.
The bokeh
dip.
discs, yeah.
And the one
Yeah.
that really worked well was like the spiral.
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
uses that for a lot of floral.
Yeah, the
look.
Soft Focus 2 actually comes with, I think it's a set of 3 discs, but it's a series of holes, and the holes are like smaller or bigger. So the smaller holes, there's a lot more holes, and then they're like medium-sized holes, so there's less, and they're bigger holes. But you can put those in the double glass 2, and you can put if you have a double glass 2 and you got the shapes discs, you can put them in the Soft Focus 2 if you want. They're interchangeable. They're the same size.
Yeah, they just drop in and
Yep. Yeah. And then the little case that they come in, one end, if you take the cap off of it, is a magnet, and you can put it in there and pull them out. Yeah. Those of us that beta tested had fun because the magnet wasn't strong enough. And, you know, I had 2 cases. I'm trying to use 2 at a time, and I'm sticking my finger in there and trying to put my finger in a hole and pull it out. So before that went public, that was fixed.
Yeah, she gets some very interesting, very artsy images down at Longwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially at Longwood.
Yep.
But I shoot Pentax just like Ken, and they just don't have the adapters. But
I'm sorry. And that's, you know, that's something that I tend not to kind of get too involved in. You know, I'm still trying to learn my way. I really wanted to learn my way around all the lenses, because when I became an ambassador, I think I owned 3. Like between the lenses and the optics, that's all I had. And they didn't care. So I've had, you know, I've had, and I didn't get to beta test everything. So, you know, I kind of had to wait around till I could save up my money to buy it, because I don't get them all for free.
Yep.
And so, you know, got to learn a little bit at a time, especially if I'm going to try to totally enjoy my retirement. Can't make it too much like work.
Well, thank you, Kathy.
You're
Any other
welcome.
questions, comments here?
Kathy, I hope if you do photo walks around the area, let us know, and I'll send out information to the club in case anybody wants to join you.
I will. Yeah, thank you for suggesting that. And I'll see what I'll see what their plans are for that. But no, I'll look like where might be a convenient place between Delco and Reading. So anyway, well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time. And you know, I hope that, you know, if you have a Lens Baby, you pick it up and go out and shoot. And if you don't have it, maybe you'll think about trying to expand your creativity a little bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night. And recording.